Cami and Jace, you and I know each other a little bit. Cami, we've known each other since before you transitioned through a community organization that we were both involved in. Right. And Jace, I met you through one of my sons. I have two teenage sons, and you and he are in theater together. And I've only ever known you as Jace. So that is, it's a pretty cool thing to know both of you and know that you're friends. And I'm really interested in sort of your view on who you are and how you got here. So Cami, why don't we start with you?
Well, imagine if you could telling all your friends and family at the age of 62 years old that you're coming out as a transgender woman. Although I could sum up my story quickly, it would be far from over and would eventually lead me to reaching the highest point of Maslow's theory of self-actualization, which is be the most that one can be. Little did I know that it would come from me becoming my true, authentic self and live a life that I had been dreaming of for 54 years. How could I be the most that I can be? Well, it's by living to my own personal mission, which is to enlighten and educate people about the transgender community by being out in the public domain as myself and just being a good person. And I'm very fortunate to live in this community where it's a very accepting community, and I feel very loved.
Jace, tell me a little bit about you and how you got to be who you are and where you are today.
Well, I came out as trans when I was 14. So it was at the end of 9th grade for me, and it was kind of something that had always been there. I don't think I ever really fully embraced femininity like I had been born into. So it was always on the down low for me. You know, my family could see it, my friends could see it, and I just feel that I had to take the time to figure that out for myself, and I did. And then I came out, and everything has been really positive so far. And I feel like I get to finally make a positive impact on the world by just being who I am, which is really special.
Cami, you have a much longer runway. So you probably had a lot of moments along the way where the way you were being related to on the outside didn't match how you felt and knew yourself to be on the inside. What was that like for you in, you know, various points in your different careers and various points in your family life? How did you manage that?
With great difficulty, but I managed to, to hide it as I needed to. I mean, I can remember I was a paid firefighter in New York, and I can remember wearing women's undergarments under my uniform. You know, it was something that I just struggled with, and I hid, and I finally, after many, many years, finally started to let myself out more, and primarily that's been in the last 20 years. You know, I'm fortunate that I have a wife that's very accepting and loving, and I told her about 11 years ago, and we're still together after 27 years of marriage. And so I'm kind of fortunate that over the years I was able to put it in its proper place. But when I finally could let myself be who I wanted to be, I was able to do it and still feel a lot of acceptance and love.
How did your wife respond when you told her?
Well, at first, obviously with surprise and shock, wondering, you know, what it all meant and how long it had been going on for. And, I took a big risk when I told her, in knowing that it could ultimately be the end of our relationship and our marriage. But she's a very incredible woman. And, she has been willing to accept me as who I am. And 5 years ago, in discussions with my therapist and finally coming to the realization that I really was transgender, she asked me, well, what are you going to do? And I went home and I talked to Terry and I said, this is what I want to do full time. And could you accept it? And she said she would. And And it's been really a dream come true for me, and I'm very fortunate.
Have there been places that you thought you would have support that you didn't?
You know, I've had a lot of friends over the years that, you know, when I finally came out to them, you know, I can remember one saying point blank, I don't want to get to know Cami. And that ended a 20-year relationship of friendship, not only with me, but also with my wife, which is very unfortunate. You know, there's been some family members that that have struggled with this, that I'm hoping that someday I can get to that point with them, that they're willing to accept me and love me for the person that I was for 25 years in a relationship that they knew me as. And, you know, there's, you know, things take time. I've learned to, you know, to accept that reality. And I think that's the biggest thing for any person coming out as transgender is you're going to be met with all kinds of challenges. And that's why I admire Chase so much and love him as a person, because he's really stepped up to the plate and he's doing remarkable things in the community.
How did the two of you meet? Because I know that you have a friendship and a connection, and it's pretty cool. So I want to know how the two of you met in the first place.
Well, Chase, you go and tell me your version, then I'll see if I agree.
I believe you met my mom on Facebook, and she came up to me and she said, "Hi, I've been talking to this woman named Cami, who is part of the trans community in Utah." And she said, "I was wondering if you guys wanted to meet up and have a brunch." And I said yes. And then we met and we had a really good time and just chatted.
Kudos to Chase's mother, Michelle. She is an amazing woman and advocate, and she's inspirational in her own way, just for her willingness to accept him for who he is. And that's not easy for a parent, you know, and I admire those that can do that.
How have you two, I mean, I feel like, Cami, there must be some things that Jace gets to do that you didn't.
Yeah, live another 52 years in his authentic life, and that's so exciting. I mean, if I could go back in time, obviously, I would love to go back and relive, you know, many of those years. But you know, I also don't feel like I missed that much. I had a very successful career and careers, I should say. And, you know, during the course of them, I don't feel like I missed that much, okay, by not being trans. I just feel like I was kind of living a little bit of a lie to myself.
A lot of this woulda, coulda, shoulda that might come up, does it really square, since the world might not have been perhaps ready for you to come out at the age that Jace has?
It was a lot different back then. You know, I mean, first off, the word transgender, you know, wasn't even readily used, and it was transsexual and trannies and all kinds of other words that actually were scary to me. You know, I first started understanding it more. You know, I really thought for a while that there was something really wrong with me. You know, I couldn't square the two things. And why did I want to keep doing this? And, you know, I was a good Catholic boy from New York, and you just didn't do those kinds of things and come out, out to your family and things like that.
It's comforting to me to have someone like Cami in the community who is out and visibly trans, and, you know, paving the way for young people like me, you know, going into the workforce and going into adult life, and just having the representation and seeing like you can have a successful career, you can be happy, you can get married, you know, you can live the life you want to live as a trans person in this country, which is really comforting and empowering to see, because, you know, the life expectancy for trans women in this country is like 35. So to see someone who is older, who is a member of the community and is happy and living their lives is just so incredible to see.
Did you worry when you were thinking about how you were going to come out, how you were coming to terms with who you were? Did you worry about, did you worry about your future in that way, about career and about the things that you just talked about?
Yeah, statistically, you know, LGBT people have harder time with employment, with workplace discrimination, and you know, greater rates of mental illness, and obviously, you know, with all the transphobia that still exists in our country, you know, worried about, you know, possibly being the victim of a hate crime someday is very frightening. And I'm lucky to live in a place that's so safe and accepting, but I know that the rest of the country and the rest of the world isn't like that. So it's something that I think about when I am looking at colleges. I think like what's their policy? Are they supportive of LGBT people? What's the campus safety like? Those are all things that I think about when I think about my future, because I want to live a long, long life, and being trans can definitely make that a lot harder.
What are Cami, you mentioned it's sort of at the top that you do some public facing things, and I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit.
I have developed what I refer to as a Cami talk, similar to a TED talk. And I have been able to reach out to the various GLAD groups in high schools like Summit and South Summit and Park City and others, and organizations in the area, where I can, you know, give a little bit of my history in my career, which has been one of taking many, many risks over the years and somehow surviving, and then finally coming out as transgender. So my story is one that it's easy to share and talk about with people in the community. And I think there's interest in understanding more about how I was able to fight my way through all that and finally live the way I want to live.
You take public facing jobs?
I do. I work at the Canyon Ski Resort, which is interesting because 23 years ago, as the chief financial officer of American Ski Company, I bought the resort and had a lot to do with developing it. And so it's nice to be back there, making, you know, minimum wage, but I'm out there in front of people every day, saying hi, helping them whatever way I can. And you know, there was one quick story I'll tell you about a couple of years ago. It was the last day of work in April, and this mother and this 18-month-old baby were walking towards me. Went up to them and I engaged them. And when I was ending the conversation, I said to the mother, I said, well, I hope that someday you'll be able to tell your daughter that she met her first transgender person at 18 months old. And the mother looked at me and she said, well, I'm 31 years old and I just did as well. Wow. And I got in the car to drive home that day. I thought back on that story and I just said, I'm living to my mission. It made me happy.
Wow. Wow. Jace, you've gotten involved with It Gets Better Project, which is a nonprofit that its primary message is to tell LGBTQ youth that there is support and there is friendship and there is a good life ahead of them. How has that been for you?
It's been an incredible opportunity. I'm part of their Youth Voices program. So I am working with 4 other youths around the country and around the world, in just spreading the message of good hope and teaching people about the LGBT community and what it's like being a young person who is part of the community in 2020 and during the pandemic and with all this stuff that's been going on. It's a really great platform for storytelling and sharing and connecting with other people that you wouldn't even think to be connecting with. like all across the globe, like several different countries. It's a really great program, and I'm so honored that I was chosen to be a part of it, and that they're allowing me to speak on behalf of their company.
And I would imagine during the pandemic, a lot of people are cut off from other kinds of support.
That's been a struggle, especially for LGBT youth who live in homes that may not be as accepting. And so it's been crucial to reach out to those kids and give them a helping hand and tell them that they're not alone and that it does get better. And
yeah, your family was very supportive. How did you tell them?
So I had decided that I wanted to lay it all bare. And I decided, I could go with something funny. I could, just kind of subtly hint at it until they got the hint and just didn't ask about it. But I decided to do it like over dinner. And so I actually went to the store and I bought some books about being trans and raising trans kids. I actually have the book right here. That's one of them. And then I also bought a card that you would typically buy for like new parents or someone who's expecting a baby. And it said, "Congratulations, it's a boy." And I didn't write anything in the card, I don't think, but I bought that and I gave it to them. It was good. I kind of just blurted out everything I had to say, and there were lots of crying. It was just important for me to get it all out there. I dressed up, I put on a shirt and tie, and I did my hair, and it was an event.
In the trans community, people deal with names differently, is what I've learned. And some people refer to their former name as their dead name. Some people do not. Some people refer fluidly back and forth to their life before they transitioned as the other name. How do you approach it?
So my legal name is still Tom. Mm-hmm. And for various reasons, I haven't changed my name legally yet. But I think the good, I have never felt the need to actually take that step yet. I'm not saying I'll never do it, but so many people know me now as Cami. I never hear anyone calling me Tom. And so, it's just something that I feel really comfortable living here and being referred to as Cami, and it's fine.
And it works.
Yeah.
Jace, how do you handle it?
I do it very differently. I feel like, especially with younger people, it's more common now. I do refer to my old name as my dead name. I don't like to hear it. I don't like to see it written down. Sometimes it makes me physically clench up just if I hear it or if I see it or if I even think about it. It causes a lot of awkwardness for me. I really am trying to distance myself from mm-hmm. that because it was a tough time for me, kind of coming to terms with myself and rejecting the old part of me that I don't identify with anymore. So I try to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
My mom, sometimes she'll post things on Facebook because it comes up with 5 years ago, and it'll have my dead name in it, and she'll say, "Is it okay if I post this?" And sometimes I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And sometimes, because I'm not on Facebook, so I don't have to see it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I say, "Yeah, sure." And sometimes I say, I would prefer it if you didn't. And I am actually in the process of getting it changed legally, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
It's a longer process than I was expecting, but I'm really excited to get it done. And
what are the exciting things that you feel like you have to look forward to, each of you, as you are in your future, in the present that you claimed?
I think for me personally, my future is continued advocacy. At the age of 67, being reinvented and being part of a community that needs more visibility. It's a role that not only should I be doing, but one which I have to do. And I'm happy to be doing it.
I think the most exciting next step for me is college. I can't wait. I think it's going to be great. And I really feel like it'll give me a great opportunity to embrace myself and put myself out there and, you know, get my life really started. You know, I would love to be a teacher someday and be that safe space for my students, like my teachers now have created that safe space for me and so many others at my school. I feel like that's all very exciting. You know, I'm excited to someday have a big family and, you know, live my life, not ignoring the fact that I'm trans, but embracing it as part of who I am and living my life with it.